Welcome to Laugh Through It All. I'm your host, Tracy. Join me as my friend Stacy and I take a deep dive into adult friendships, lessons from the Let Them Theory book by Mel Robbins. All right, so we decided to talk about the chapters on friendship in the Let Them book by
Yep.
Mel Robbins. I love it. I actually just left from getting my hair done and talked about this book pretty much the entire time because
Yeah.
my hairdresser wants to read it. And so she said, well, what kind of things are you getting out of the book? Have you gotten a lot out of it? And I'm like, well, gosh, there's a section on this. There's a section on this. And I just kept going and going and going. I'm thinking, well, actually, that's the reason I did the book club. So I could keep it all in my head and that's how I remember things if I talk about
Right.
it. So I'm actually glad to do that. So you and I decided to talk about the adult friendships in the book. So if you have the book or if you want to reference in the book, it is chapters 11, 12, and 13 are
Yep.
basically the ones that cover friendships. So she says that we are constantly confronted with the challenge of finding our people in new chapters of our lives. And I was thinking about that because if I take my life as a whole and you start with your childhood friends and then you go to college friends, you go to your young 20 going out party friends. Then if you get married, you've got your married friends. You've got your friends who are parents. You become parents, and so then you want other friends that are parents. Then I got a divorce, so then you're looking for other friends that are divorced and your work friends. Just every place you go and every stage of your life, you are hoping to find your people.
Hmm.
And that is so true. And so the great scattering that she talks about in the book, where people scatter at different points of your life, that completely fits that, they go together, is that you
Hmm.
do have friends for certain times of your lives.
Yes. And the challenge in that being keeping the friends from the different stages as you move through those different stages. I think that's probably the one area for me that I got so obsessed with in this book because I took every friendship fade personal and as a loss or an
Same.
abandonment, and
Mhm.
so I think I read I got this on audio as well because I listen to books in the car on my way to and from work. It's kind of like my getting ready and winding down time. So I've read 11, 12, and 13 twice,
Yep.
and I've listened to it twice because it's just I can't get enough of it. And what I love about this book is it is let them, but it's let them in multiple scenarios. So it's almost like 3 chapters at a time are are more pertinent for a different situation in your life. So I don't foresee ever putting this book away.
Agree.
Um, I'm moving on a little bit to reading what we're reading for next week, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, this is a whole new set of stuff."
Mhm.
But yeah, I think that's been a big struggle for me as I've become an adult is the times she calls it in the book, the scattering, but also, sometimes you're going to be distant and sometimes you're going to be close. And it's through those distanced times that I start to look at, oh God, what did I do?
Same.
Did I say something? Did I do something? Did somebody else say something? um, and so I fall into that. I've fallen into that a lot in my adult life. And I've just really enjoyed kind of getting her perspective on that this is normal. It happens to all of us. And there's reasons for the changes in your friendships that don't have anything to really do with you personally, just has to do with, you know, those 3 things that I'm sure you'll mention soon. But yeah, so loved these 3 chapters.
And I feel, the older I'm getting and the more that I'm on my own little self-help journey and different things that I, want to do better at. Um, reading this book and the exact same thing that you said is going back and analyzing those friendships that you had that you might have been so close at one point and then they just do that naturally fade. I absolutely in every situation thought, well, what the heck happened?
Right.
Like you don't even know, and you of
Right.
course take it so personally. So
Mhm.
looking back at it, it does make me feel better. It kind of
Yeah.
I think as I go through this journey and face different things and realize certain things, it heals another little part of me,
Yes.
because you do realize that most of the time it wasn't anything in particular that you did. It's just the situation,
Right.
and I hate the fact that yes, at our age we still resort to kind of like high school behavior with, oh my God, like you said, what, did someone else tell them something about me that they all of a
Right.
sudden didn't like? But
Right.
it's so true. It
Mhm.
is so true.
Yep.
Because
You really
most of
wanna
the
know
things,
why.
yeah, because most of the things that people are going to say about, say that you said, even maybe most of that's not even true.
Right. You said something, I think it was in book club too, about just always or needing closure,
Yes.
and I'm very much that same person as well. I can I can understand when people are moving on in their lives or things are happening, things are changing, but when there's no communication or it just kind of abruptly comes to an end and you don't really know, I can't handle not having some type of closure. And I think let them allows you to give yourself the closure without needing it from the other person or the other situation. Um, so that's been really helpful too, is because I'm a big closure person. Like I just want to know why,
Hmm.
and then I'll be fine if I just know why, and then I know why, and then I'm not really fine.
Yeah,
But
it all of a sudden talks about things that you didn't even think about.
yeah,
You give the
exactly.
worst case scenario in your own head, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Whoa, shit! Wait a minute,
Where did that come from? That wasn't even
that's
in
not even true. Let's dig
the
deeper."
right. Oh, that's funny. Yeah, 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 yeah.
And
Oh,
sometimes closure for me is me saying goodbye. Okay, and the only right now, really the only instance I can give you is within the last 9 years that I've been divorced. If it's been someone dating or things like that, it even like a ghosting situation, I just can't do that. Even if they're ghosting, I still have to say, "It was I understand this wasn't for you. I wish you luck. Good luck in your search." Even if it's just me just giving that out to the universe, that is closure for me. So
right,
it's not even that because there's been people saying, "Oh God, just leave it alone." What are you going to get out of that? It's like, well, no, but that's something that I
I
need. They could never respond to that message, and
right.
I'm okay with that, but I have
You
to
need
put
it.
it out there. Yeah,
Right,
and so it always kind of bothers me when people say, "Well, oh God, just ignore it. Just leave it alone. Who cares?" I'm like, "Well, it's not that I care that they're doing it. It's just that I have to give that
right.
last."
I have to know that I
Yes,
settled things in my own heart and my own mind.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
And
So,
when I don't get the opportunity to do that, oh, like I can think of one friendship for sure right now that still to this day just really bothers me that I don't have in my life anymore. And I've grieved over it a couple of different times because I've just randomly ran into this person like once every 5 years since we haven't really spoken. And so, it's I can that's the one that really bothers me because there's been no closure for me. I
mhm,
didn't get an opportunity to say what I needed to say or to even ask any questions. It was just kind of like, nope, I'm done, you
yeah,
know. And this person did tell a mutual friend who she randomly ran into as well. Um, I guess kind of the reason why we weren't close anymore. And which I understand if that's the case. I got married. I got married and I moved
Yeah.
to Novi and, you know, but the comment was that there was no room for her in my life anymore.
Mm,
And she said that to somebody else, never said that to me. I tried to have a conversation with her. She did not want to have it. And I just felt like that couldn't have been further from the truth. She had been such a significant person in my life through my first marriage. We did everything together. She was there for my kids' first steps. She was there for all of the firsts with my daughter, my first pregnancy, and we really kind of grew up together, met at work in our 20s. But yeah, just for her to think that I didn't have room in my life for her anymore. Um, I've not been able to let that go.
mm,
And so this is really kind of helping me put things into perspective that, it was inevitable. She was single at the time. She's continued to be single as far as I know. Um, at least the last time I ever had any contact with her, she was still single, no children. So I don't know if even if that didn't happen or she didn't say that, the it would have it would have been distanced anyway,
right.
eventually down the road just because we've gone in such different directions in our life. But so it's this is helping a lot. This is really helping a lot to put a lot of things in perspective.
Because I mean, friendships, when you lose a long time friendship, it truly is like a breakup. Because I've gone through the same thing,
Yeah.
where you're so close to someone, they know every part about you. They know your family. They know, you know, all your terrible secrets or you know what I mean?
Mhm.
It's like
Yeah,
everything.
yeah.
And then all of a sudden they're just gone.
Right.
And it's a mourning process because
Mhm.
it's confusing, you're hurt, you don't know what to do.
Yep.
And it's hard. It's to lose a good friend is very, very difficult.
Mhm. It is, and you grieve. You go through all the stages of grief when
For
and,
sure.
you said something very significant is, you find people that you can tell anything to, and that's rare.
Yes.
I haven't had a ton. I've never been somebody who's had a huge, large group of girlfriends.
Mhm.
Never have. It's always been one or two
Yeah.
at the different stages of my life, but,
Same with
um
me. I'm exactly the same way.
and those are the people that I have been vulnerable with, that I like you
Mhm.
said, tell your secrets to, and you do that because there's no judgment. They wanna see what's best for you, and they wanna give you good advice, but you feel comfortable, and, it's such a rare thing to find people that you can do that with, that when you lose that, it's grief.
Yeah.
It's like, a part of you has died because you relied so heavily on someone to help you with all types of different things and emotions. So, yeah, that was a tough one for me. They've all been tough, but that one without the closure has been
Sure.
and in most situations, I don't know if you experience this. I mean, I feel like you and I have had this just recently, like when Mel said, sometimes it's just a text or a little message. And, we were very close for a long time, a couple times.
Yeah.
We were close and then marriage and
Yes.
divorces separated us. And then we were close again and then divorce, marriage separated us again. But
Mhm.
all of my really good friends, we've been able to come back to
Right.
and pick right back up where we left off. And
Yes.
so, that's always a really good feeling too. But that one or two that you never get back,
Yeah.
you gotta learn to let that go.
And and I'm finding as again, I keep saying as I get older because it is true. It's I think as I'm getting older, you realize so many other things,
You
that
sure
are
do. Yep.
and um I- everybody I've had again people come in and out of my life, friendships that are here, that are there, they're gone. Um but I am finding just within this last year, the number of friends that are old friends are coming back around, and those are once again my solid friends.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so there are
Yep.
friends from childhood, there's friends from different stages of my life, but they're the people who I actually think know me, you know?
Right.
And um and I put so much more, I don't know what the word is, but so much more, not weight, but into those friendships. They're more important to me,
Mhm.
I think, now than they ever were before because I was just going through life, and now I'm to the
Sure.
point where I'm really taking a look at my life and what I want for these next chapters and who I want to be with me in those chapters.
Right.
And there are some that I just that don't fit anymore.
Mhm.
And um and I think that's okay. And according to her book, that is just the way things go.
It is, yeah, it is the way things go. And with age comes great perspective.
Yeah.
I think, you mentioned friends from school, so you're all the same age now. You're all going
Mhm.
through that same stage in life, and the part in the book, and I don't want to get ahead of you,
No, no, no.
um,
There's no worries.
but the proximity, the energy,
Yes.
what's the third one? Proximity,
Timing.
energy, and timing
Yes,
could
yes,
not be I think that's the part that I reread the most because it is so true
yes.
that, if you're not living right down the street from each other or in the same town, you're not going to be as close. It's
Hmm.
just the way that it goes. And for me, a really big thing was the energy. I have, between my husband and I, we've gone through just kind of a ton of loss in a short period of time. And I just haven't had the energy
Hmm.
to maintain some relationships that I've had that I love and treasure. Um, but I haven't had the energy. And when you only have so much energy left,
Hmm.
you have to pick and choose where you put it. And sometimes if you have sick parents, sick grandparents, and you're trying to still work and maintain your marriage relationship and your parent relationship, friends are the first thing to go when you're focusing on family and your children and your work. And so the energy part helped me feel better about myself as a friend,
Yeah, no, for
whether other
sure.
people do or not. It really was great self reflection because, I mean, timing and proximity, those are easy. We have very dear friends that we made through boating, and they were our best friends. We spent 4 to 5 nights a week, 4 to 5 days a week with them. We boated and wave ran every weekend, and getting close to retire. Well, he's getting close to retirement, and they moved to Florida a couple of years ago. And you know, I was devastated and sad when they left because she was my person. And I could, same thing that we talked about, and proximity does change things, but
Hmm.
we're going to be going there soon. They come here, we pick right back up where we left off.
Yep.
Um, but so proximity and timing, I'm an empty nester. I'm married, so I'm not hanging out with a bunch of divorced women,
Hmm.
right?
Yep. Yep.
I'm not hanging out with a lot of people who have young children.
Yep.
It's the timing, but the energy part
Hmm.
really helped me reflect on myself as a friend and where I've fallen short. And it felt good to have something to be able to contribute it to, something tangible, because when you're in the moment of stress or anxiety ridden moments, you don't have an awareness of anything. It's like the blackout. You're just going through the motions. And so it's almost like, and I don't know, the way you describe it is how I feel. It's almost like we're in the 50s era and we're seeing things for the very first time, or the cloud has shifted, the stress has left us, and perspective is really clear. And let's face it, we're over the hump. We
Right.
don't have another 50 years in us, if God forbid. But So you get that great perspective, and self-reflection's a part of it, which I'm doing and you're doing it.
Absolutely.
Um, and it extends into how you are with your relationships and your friendships.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, all of that. Oh, that was called the three pillars of friendship, is what you
Yes.
were
Yeah,
talking
yeah,
about. So,
yep.
for those that are listening that haven't read the book, proximity, she says, means how often you are physically near them. And she says you have to spend 74 hours with someone to be a casual friend.
That was great. Yeah.
I know, and 200 hours to be a close friend. Now, well, let me finish this and then I'll come back to that point. So, and
Mhm.
then timing. Timing means where you're at in life. If your friends aren't at the same point in life, it's harder to stay close. I see that so clearly now.
Mhm.
Energy, like you said, is either you click with someone or you don't, and that energy can change over time. And then I have a note here that says, I love what she said about when things change, we start to analyze what is wrong.
Mhm.
Instead, we should focus on acceptance, kindness, and admiration for the friendship you had.
Yes.
And there again, I see that now. I did
Right.
not see that, growing up and well into my adulthood. I did not see it that way.
No,
And I think it's huge. I think that's huge information.
it is.
So to go back to okay, let's just to have a close friend, 200 hours. I don't know of many adults who can spend that much time with somebody.
I was just I don't know if you highlighted it, but there was a part where she said, like, when you're an adult, what was it, 18 to 61, to actually get that 200 hours
Right,
after you're working all day, taking
right,
care of your kids, doing your family obligations, it takes a long time to get that 200 hours in. And so, it is harder as you get older to make those new connections. I think
right.
that's why it's easier too to go back and revisit, and why she encourages you to go first, to get back there, reach out, send the text,
Yes.
because you don't have 200 more hours to,
No. And I mean, I think that's why, although that's just is now just coming to me, and I think that might be why I am very much a texter because that's how I stay connected. Do you know
right.
what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Where my friend Amanda at work, she's in the book club too. I mean, we eat lunch together every day. We go out maybe once a month, I'd say. But we talk every single day and we've got that time in because we work together. But she is not a social media person. She is not a texter. I could text her today telling her that, my leg is cut off. Could you come help me? And I would die.
Oh,
I tell her
no.
that all the time. I'm like, I will never call you in an emergency because
You
you
won't
are not
answer.
available.
You're never on your phone.
Yes, exactly. But so, if we didn't have the work, there's no way we would be as close as we are. I mean, but there again, she's a phone talk. She talks on the phone. I could call her and talk,
Right,
but my communication style is definitely to reach out through text because sometimes I do only have, or I'm doing something else, but I can still reach out and stay connected to someone through a text message.
right.
So, so I don't know. So because I don't know anybody that could spend 200 hours as an adult with another
Mhm.
human besides your family. So I don't like the idea of thinking that you can't, I mean, I guess she's not saying it's not possible to
Right.
have a close friend if you're not spending that
She
much
just I
time
think she just said that you have to put the time in.
effort in.
If and you don't and sitting around waiting for somebody else to put the time in
Mm,
is not gonna get you to that 200 hours. I think that was more of her point, in that, you know, you gotta just do it. With the whole, story of her walking up to somebody's house, her daughter's making her just I'm like, "I would never just
no, I
walk
wouldn't
up
either.
to somebody's, knock, knock, "Hey, can we be friends?"
Yeah.
You know? But, but she's right, we're not getting any younger, so if we're sitting here, thinking that we or we're in a new stage of our life where we need to meet new friends, then we've got to be okay with going first because someone's not going to just knock on our door and say,
No.
"Hey, want to be friends?"
And I'm the first, first a good example is I went out Saturday night.
Mhm.
Ended up seeing you. I mean, that wasn't planned, you know,
Right?
and I'm usually okay. Let's go to one place. We're going to eat, have a couple drinks, and then I'm going to go home. Well,
Yep.
Amanda's, only 40, so she's
Oh,
ripping and raring to go. And I'm like, listen, girl, I can't go out every every weekend.
right.
It's not my
Right.
style. But
Right.
I'm just past that stage of my life. We're different stages.
Mhm.
Um, so but I went out and we went to two places and I ended up having a blast and still felt fine the next day. But
Right.
I'm very much I am just gonna stay home. I'm just as content being home, but I need to make the effort to
Mhm.
go out and be social. Even for networking type thing, you know what I mean?
Yep.
Just even get out there and talk to people about my podcast or about,
Mhm.
life coaching, just anything. I need to make that effort.
Right. We said the same thing, um, I think another challenge when you're married is, and this was where we had such a great thing with our friends who moved to Florida, is that the guys were friends and we were friends. When you're a married couple, I don't know if you ever experienced this with your marriages, but it's hard for a couple to find another couple where everybody likes each other the same.
For
And
sure.
so, that was really special. And so Chris and I, when they first moved away, it was like, oh, well, now what do we do? We kind of had to rediscover him and I's friendship, just him and I, for a little while. And we said the exact same thing Saturday night. We went to a retirement party. We had a great time. We were like, it doesn't start till 6. And we're like, oh, 6, that's
I know.
late.
I know.
All the way in Rochester at
I
6 p.m. I don't
know.
know. I might
That's
need a
why I
nap.
was going to the second bar. I'm like, it's 9 o'clock, and you want me to go to another bar? We're gonna get
And
there. We're gonna have to look for a seat. We're gonna have to do all this
Chris even tried to get out of it. He's like, if there's no parking spots,
stuff.
we're not stopping at the second place. I'm just saying right now. But there was a parking spot. We said, well, just go in for a look, say hi to Richie, let him know he saw us, and then we'll
Right.
and then we'll be home by 10. But again, ran into you guys, and I
Yes.
mean, we had a ball.
So much
And
fun.
so and
Yes.
then even the next day, we were like, "We gotta do that more often."
I
I'm
know.
like,
That's
"Yeah, I gotta
exactly.
stay awake
I
longer than
know.
8 o'clock at night." But
I
you do,
know.
and it all comes back to the timing and putting the time and energy into things that make you feel good and that you wanna do. And sometimes it's easier to not and just relax and, you know, it's easier sometimes, but
I think I
yeah.
try also to fit so much in when the kids are gone because,
Mhm.
I try to get stuff done that, because when they're here, even though they're bigger, I know a lot
Yeah,
of people still feel like, well, no, you have to have a life. I still am to the point, well, I want to be here if they're here. And that's just
sure.
how it
Yep,
works.
yep,
And so I try to fit in things to do that I don't want to do when they're here. And sometimes you're just too tired to include
yeah,
going out at night into that
yep.
mix. So I think I just need to find a way to not look at that as, oh God, I'm
A
gonna
chore.
bed. Yes. Even though
Yeah,
I know me, I'm gonna have a blast. I know that I'm gonna have a
right.
good time. So I think that is definitely something I need to put on my vision board.
Your vision board.
Yeah.
And you don't have to do it every other weekend. You can do it once a month or
No.
once every other
Yes.
month,
I think
just
I'd be happy with once a month.
mhm.
I think that would be that's good for me,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep.
Um, so we talked about the three pillars of friendship. The one the one thing that I have a little story about myself about that, about uh the the relationships, blah blah blah, the friendships. This is in chapter 12 about
Okay.
the friendships naturally fading. And
Mhm.
I mean, I think they talk about it throughout a couple of 11 and 12, but I have a friend who I absolutely adore. I mean, she is a wonderful, wonderful person. We met when we taught together, and then she, and at that time, she had one baby, and my kids were much younger. So now, mind you, she's much younger than I am, and quite a bit younger. But at that point, my kids were young, and she had a baby, so we spent a lot of time together. It was me and my two kids, her husband, and her baby, and then she went on to have another kid. Um, but we could all hang out together. And then she moved buildings, and I started to feel the separation because she got a whole new group of people she was hanging out with. And I started to get so hurt by that it was affecting how I thought about her because I
Mhm.
personalized it. And that got better over the time because it was all me. It was not her. It was me doing it to myself. And so then, I would see her on social media with all these friends and their kids and her kids, and they were all just having a great old time. And okay, well, here's old lady Tracy just out of the picture. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And now my kids are big. Her kids are still small, really. They're in elementary school. And every time we see each other, it's like you know that we adore each other. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like
Yep.
it's it, so in my own I'm chopping this up because I know that it was all me that was putting all of these thoughts in. It was, feeling like I lost a good friend, or the jealousy of hanging with other people, and then even moving buildings and working with such a fabulous team. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I very, very struggle with that. Now, I've gotten over that over the years here, but reading these chapters, absolutely, it was like a light went off, like, oh my God. It was nothing other than we were at different stages in our life.
Mhm.
There was nothing that I did wrong, nothing that she did wrong. It's
Right.
she was hanging out with people who had the same age kids as she was. We
Mhm.
are nowhere near the same age. And so my kids are bigger, so of course we're gonna kind of separate. And now we have just a different level of friendship where I could text her right now and it would be as if I just talked to her this morning. Do you know what I'm saying? We
Yep.
see each other in trainings, and we always sit together at trainings and have a blast. And so it definitely opens your eyes of the reasons that things change and that they're okay to change. And so
Mhm.
same thing, that reading that just completely healed that little wound that I put on myself.
Yep.
Most of this stuff we do to ourselves, Stacey. I don't know why we are so hard on ourselves.
Yeah. Well, that's what I loved about the book too, is like I read somewhere online like, oh, it's just a bunch of her personal stories or whatever. But what you just talked about was in chapter 11, and she titled it I Was Horrible.
Yeah.
And she says, I'm embarrassed about how I felt and I acted, and how I would look at social media and see all my friends who had proximity
Yes.
getting together, hanging out, doing barbecues, and I was resentful. I was, all of that stuff. And then she said, I should have taken responsibility for understanding my processing of my emotions in a healthy way and a mature way, instead of feeling sorry for myself and, torturing myself really with seeking out social media to see what are my friends doing without me.
Right.
So yeah, that's very, very true. And I'm glad you got through that, and that
Me too,
because
because I mean, like I said, I adore her and she couldn't be any nicer. And
right,
it was to the point where, the one person, particular that she was now linked to, I found myself like not liking her, even though I didn't even know her at the time. I know
right,
her now, but I'm like, ew, what,
Right.
what, what is with her? You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like, she did nothing to me. I didn't even know her. I mean, I knew of
I
her, but
Right? I love the first part of this book. It has nothing to do with friendships, but how she talks about being, some people don't ever leave, and we all at certain times don't leave that 8-year-old child. We still have the emotions of an 8-year-old child, and we get in these adult situations, and sometimes we revert back to the 8-year-old child where, "She won't be friends with me. She likes so and so better than me."
yes, yes.
And, it's so very true. So very true. But I love too that she said the connection you have with another person never actually breaks.
Mhm.
It is just the proximity and the timing that makes you lose touch with them. And it's never too late to reconnect with old friends. So, even though you know that, life gets in the way and you don't put the emphasis on it until you get older. And I've lost so many people recently in my life that life is too short to hold on to any of that kind of stuff anymore. And I just want to just love and be loved, and that's it
Yep,
for as
yep.
many years that I have left to do it. So, um, but yeah, friendships
It's
it's a personal thing. It's a very
it
personal thing.
is, and it's I don't know. It's harder as you get to be an adult. I think. I
Hmm.
think there's been. I mean, I know I've said, I don't need any more friends. I've got my friends that I like and I want to be in my life, and I don't need a bunch of new friends. And I don't know if that's bad or good. It's just I what I want is I want the people who I surround myself and knows my personal life. I want those to mean something now,
Hmm.
you know. And
Right.
I think the close friends that I want in my life, those are people who aren't going to do all the things that you grow up worrying about, as if they're talking about me, or is
Hmm.
what I'm saying.
Right.
uh, I'm just I'm I don't know. I think people get into with friendships too is whoever they're with, they're going to talk about the other person because the other person talks bad about them. If
Right.
that makes sense.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And it's like, no, no. You know what I mean? If I like you, I'm not going to say hurtful things about you,
Mhm.
just to make that other person happy,
Right.
if that all makes sense, you know? And
It does. And then I think that goes to how many people you have
yeah,
surrounded in your life. It's really a blessing to have an abundance of really wonderful people in your life, but it can get messy at times too,
mhm,
because, it's I we're both in elementary school. We've been in schools for 30 years, right? Almost 20 years. And what do we tell our little girls at school when they get into conflicts? You bring that third girl in
every
and
time,
all hell breaks loose, right?
every
And it
time.
doesn't mean that any one of those three girls is not worthwhile and a great girl. It's just, especially with women, I think, two of you can get along, but the third one is gonna connect with one or the other of you more. And maybe they're gonna
100%.
connect with each other more at a different time.
Hmm.
They're gonna be, I have friends, gosh, we've both been in the same district for so long that um, I have people that I've worked in the same building as. We were really, really close. And then you move buildings and you don't talk to them for 4 years. And then you're back together in a building with them. And it's like nothing ever, what were they not supposed to like make any connections in the 5 years you weren't in the same
Right.
building as? Like, it don't now while we're gone, while we're
Yeah.
apart,
You are not allowed to make any new friends.
you connect with anybody else like you connected with me because that's not fair. Um, but I think that we do get territorial and we do get, I'm going to put it out there, jealous. I know men hate to hear that word, but
I agree.
women get jealous. I don't
Yeah.
care. You can argue that with me all day long, but we do. We get jealous of other women talking to our husbands or our boyfriends. We get jealous of other women who connect with our best friends. Um, and it's just the way it goes, and you can't get mad about it. It's just, but we do when we're responding like an immature 8-year-old. And then one day we get, one day we get, a little grown up and we realize, well, maybe I was being a little silly. See,
Absolutely.
now would be a really good time to tell the story about the meme that we send to each other.
It was, oh, I got my socks in my hand. Look at that. Just took them off.
You
Like,
gonna edit
oh
that
my,
part out?
and I swear on my life that that flash was flashing in my head that whole time you were telling that story. I swear to God, because it still cracks me up to this day.
So
You
funny.
tell the story. If you, can you
Okay. So, well, and I think it's a significant story too, because this is a perfect
it
example, I think,
totally fits.
of timing.
Yeah.
I'm in a new relationship, newly married, you're newly divorced, out there on the town, making your friend. And so we had my husband's band in common, meaning I had to go to every band gig and you guys were coming to the band
Yep.
gigs. And so there was always the same following of people that would follow the band.
Mhm.
And there was a group of girls who were related to somebody in the band's wife, and you connected with them. They were single, same kind of thing. And we joked about, I can't even remember what the meme is now, but it was like, wait a minute, you went out with them outside of the band, did and it was on social media or whatever. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute.
It was from
Friends
that
with my
movie. Yeah, it was from that movie
bridesmaids,
Bridesmaid,
right? Yeah, what
where
did it
she's in the
say?
car and, and it was something about, um, when your best friend becomes best friends with somebody else or something like that,
Yes.
and she's in the car and she's going, "Oh, do you? Do you?" She's like she's like,
Okay, whatever. Yep.
I I swear to God, at least twice a year that comes up in my because I think I was on and then I've posted it again as the memory. And so at
Uh-huh.
least twice a year that comes up in my Facebook memories. And
So
it's
funny.
still I still laugh just as hard because it was
Whatever, it's
so
fine,
perfect.
Tracy. Go out with her, go dancing with her, whatever, it's fine. I'm gonna stay home with my husband.
And see, even looking back at that, that would have never have crossed. I mean, I'm not saying that it bothered you, but I'm just saying that would have never have crossed my mind that would have ever bothered you. Do you know what I'm saying? And so there again, it's just not that you
It's a
don't.
real thing for some people. It's a
Sure,
real thing.
sure.
And we can joke about it, but for and I'm not gonna say there hasn't been a time where it has really been,
Mhm.
you know, an issue for me with other friendships too, but it is hard to watch
Agree,
sometimes.
agree. But I mean, like at that time, I would have never have even considered that because
No,
even at that time, we all hung out together. Do you know what I'm saying?
right.
So
Mhm.
doing something with them would have like didn't feel any different than
Mm-mm.
doing something with everybody because we're all did stuff together all the you know what I mean
Yep.
together group.
Mhm. Yep.
And so, things like that just didn't even seem different to me at that time.
Right.
I mean, looking back now, I clearly see it. I'm so
It
sorry.
it was just a joke.
No, I know,
Just
I
a
know,
joke.
I know.
But it was
It was a
funny. It was funny because
very funny joke.
that was what we were joking about was, "Well, you can't
Yes.
be friends with her because she's friends with me,"
Yes.
because that is a very real thing in some situations.
Agree.
And it's those little girls, man, at school. But
Oh, I'm
she
having
said she won't be friends with me now
yeah,
because she's friends with her, and it's like, "Oh, it's gonna be okay. It's gonna be
yeah.
okay."
What do
Yeah.
you think, what do you think has changed for you as far as your needs in a friendship?
Oh, man. I think listening without judgment
Mhm.
is so very important. I wanna be able to just and this is I will tell you is the greatest thing between my friend and I in Florida. I can literally call her up and tell her whatever I'm thinking, whatever I'm feeling, even if I'm being a ridiculous baby. I just throwing a temper tantrum for 5 minutes. She listens, she supports me, but she doesn't judge. Like, you talk about your kids, or you talk about your work, or you talk about whatever. And I know no matter where we go, no matter what we're doing, if she runs into somebody that I've had a vent about, she doesn't feel differently about those people. She doesn't allow my temper tantrums or what I do affect the way that she treats people or sees people. She's just there for me in those moments. And she can sympathize with me. She gives me great advice, but I can call her up and complain about something my husband did that I didn't like, and she
Mhm.
still likes my husband just the same.
Sure.
And vice versa. And it's not like we're talking bad about our husbands all the time, so edit that
Oh,
part out. But,
no, I understand.
you know,
I get what you
um,
mean. Yeah.
it's just a level of trust where you can say something and be vulnerable. You mentioned, I don't know if you mentioned it or if it was in our notes, but, vulnerability is such a big part of friendships. And but at the same time, you have to be able to be vulnerable and trust the fact that your vulnerability doesn't get out or change the way people are going to view or judge the people in your life.
Mhm.
And there's so much judgment and hate in the world that, but at the same time, human nature is you've got to vent, you've got to get your feelings out, you've got to, I've been in therapy for many years as well. And I think even at some point, my therapist got a little judgy about certain people in my life. I was like, okay, well, no, I don't want you to hate
Right,
that person. I actually really love this person. It just so happens that every other week when I come talk to you, I have something
right,
I have to tell you about this person.
right.
So I think that is probably the biggest
Yeah.
adult friendship for me, or what's changed for me is just that I don't want you to have any ill will towards anybody in my life. I just really want you to be there for me, and I'll be there for you without judgment as well. That's huge. How about you? What's changed for you?
Um, well, because I definitely I'm a very open person. Um, and I'm definitely and I find this to be my greatest attribute is I am not a judgmental person with my friends at all. Even my therapist said to me one time, she's like, "You are the type of person where your friend will call you up and say, 'I just killed my husband,' and you'll be like, 'Okay, well, what are we going to do about it?' And let's just,
Solve the problem.
yeah, let's just solve the problem at hand and move on." And so I take that and I would hope for the same. And because I am an open person, I that's something I definitely look for. I don't want to think that you're judging me for, the things that I say or the things that I do or choices that I've made. I mean, I think I'm much more intentional in my decisions of things that I do now than life that I lived or even, just 5, 6 years ago.
Right,
So I definitely think the judgmental thing for sure. Now, one thing that Mel said in the book, and I don't know if I agree, is the reciprocal part of a friendship. Because I I need that how do you even say reciprocal reciprocity or something like that? Yes,
reciprocity. Yeah.
very
Hmm.
terrible word. Um
Right.
I need that to an extent. Now, you mentioned earlier if it's a season of your life where you've lost some people and your focus needs to be on other things. That's definitely not what I'm talking about. But if I'm always the one reaching out,
Right.
because that is a definite. I think that's because it's very personal to me. I had a friend who we talked all the time through text message, all the time, all the time, all the time. And then I had my a 50th birthday party, and she did not come to my party, nor did she RSVP. And this is someone I talk to every single day, several times a
Mm.
day.
Wow.
And that part made me sit back and think, are we even like, are we friends?
Right.
And I kind of stepped back. And then what happens when you do that? You realize that you were always the one reaching
Right.
out.
Right.
And so now I know there's going to be exceptions to the rule,
Sure.
but I do feel like that's very important to me
Mhm.
because I want to feel wanted and thought of also,
Right.
which could stem from relationships, the relationships I've had in the past too. Those could all come together. But I think
Mhm.
because in every relationship I've ever had, it's always been me going after, me going after, me going after.
Mhm.
And I'm in a time of my life where I'm like, I'm stepping back from that because I need it to be a little bit of both ways.
Yeah. I agree with you 100%, and I struggle and battle with not trying to feel selfish in any way,
Mhm.
but I in all of the times and the things that I have gone through where my energy has just been completely drained,
Sure.
I think she even said it somewhere in there about, like, once in a while, it would have been nice if someone would have reached out and said, "Hey, are you okay?" Because people do, I think, assume maybe that she's just lost interest, she's not texting me back, she's not texting me back in a timely manner. Um, and again, people personalize things, they try to understand it themselves. And in some situations, I wish a person who maybe isn't as close to me anymore as they used to be would have taken a minute and just reached out and said, "Hey, you know, are you okay?" And because I wasn't.
Sure.
I feel like, the biggest thing that's rocked my world is my mom died 2 years ago. I've lost my dad, my mom, 2 grandmas, a couple months ago, 2 weeks apart. But losing my mom, I still can't talk about it very often, and so, um, I've I was probably I'm probably been the worst friend in the world for the last 2 years because I didn't have the physical energy some days to even wanna get up and go out of the house.
Right.
Eh, you know, and so, I don't wanna sound like a selfish, what, saying that, but I do think just as I have taken things personally and not sought out closure, I would have hoped that some people would have reached out to me over the years and said, "Hey, what's going on? Is everything okay? Things aren't the same." Um, but again, you're older, you step back and you go, was
Right.
that even a friendship in the first place? Was that even a relationship that, was it really one-sided? Probably was really one-sided, and now that I don't have the energy to put my side in, it scattered, it dwindled, it, disconnected, whatever you wanna call it. Um, but it's just nice to have words on a page
Mhm.
that can put some perspective on all of these different types of relationships and where relationships have grown and stayed close or where relationships have just ended.
Yeah, I think it just puts your mind at ease. It really does. And I think that's what the book has brought me so far, and I'm not even done with the book,
Right.
and
Mhm.
the amount of things I've gotten from this. And I do think that so many people struggle with adult friendships.
Mhm.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think it has, if anything, has put my mind at ease for a lot of things, a lot of topics, because the book covers so many different things.
What got me thinking too was, and I don't know if because you mentioned the last 4 years, 5 years. I have you seen a huge shift in this since the pandemic? I mean, if you wanna talk about energy, proximity,
Hmm.
being, having an effect on relationships and friendships. Some relationships survived the pandemic and some did not. And
Even thought
I think,
about that.
well, I think that some relationships relied on one of those 3 pillars too heavily.
Oh, 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 oh. That
You know
makes
what I
sense.
mean? Like, and so some people's anxiety, got really heightened during the pandemic, like off the charts. We have more people on anxiety medication in the last
Yes.
5 years. And, so if you were an anxious person and you need energy to maintain friendships, some people haven't come back from that.
No.
Proximity. Some people moved. Some people are still afraid to go out of their houses. Some people are afraid to take their masks off. And how do you build a relationship if you don't go out of your house? Mel says that in the book. Um, so I think for some of us, it's short. We're going out. We're doing our things. We're going to connect with who we connect with. We got one life to live. And then other people have kind of gotten sucked into um, that time just took away their ability to really forge forward with those friendships and those relationships. So I just wondered if you noticed any significance in the last 5 years compared to before that.
Yeah, I
Because
have to say that I didn't even consider that at all. I
no,
like that. I never even thought about that.
I feel like some people just have really changed
Yeah,
socially, socially,
sure. That
and
it
haven't.
totally makes sense.
Yeah, not a lot, but I've noticed some people
Yeah.
have changed a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've spent so much time seeing how it has affected children,
Hmm.
just being in the schools
Right.
and thinking about that aspect of it that I never even considered how it changed or if it changed any relationships of mine, any personal
Hmm.
relationships.
Hmm.
It's a good question. I don't know.
I don't have a personal example of losing any friendships or relationships, but I've witnessed a lot.
Hmm.
Families, family relationships and friendships that just didn't survive it. That haven't survived the political climate and haven't survived,
Ah,
maybe it's more the political environment that's come out of the pandemic or came out of the pandemic, in addition to some of the fears and anxieties that people had about going out and being in public and being around other people. But I think it is harder for people to socialize in some situations now
hmm.
than it used to be before.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Great point. I don't know. Mel didn't talk about that either. What's up, Mel? What's up,
She
Mel
didn't. No.
Robbins? Why didn't you talk about COVID, Mel? Because, we're best friends, Mel.
That's right.
I love her
That's
book
right.
so much that, by the way, I haven't told anybody this, but I email her every single week and ask her if she'll come to my book club
Every week. And
every
do
week.
you get the same response every week?
I've gotten one response, and it was from someone on her team, and she says, "Wow, that is amazing. We're so thankful that you are, looking into this book and blah 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 blah." And that's about it. But I'm
Mm.
gonna keep doing it every week.
So she lives in Michigan? Does she live in Michigan?
I don't know. No, she doesn't live in Michigan, but she's from Michigan.
She's from
That's what I
Michigan.
said.
That's
I'm
right.
like, homegirl.
I
We're
thought she
we're
moved back to Michigan.
we're Michiganders. Come on.
That's
She's not
funny.
falling for it. And this is what I feel like saying. Just ask Mel. I don't want your assistants
Right.
to give the desk of Mel Robbins. I want this to be delivered to Mel.
Correct.
All I'm asking is for like give me 10 minutes. 10 minutes on a Zoom to thank the people, to tell us what she wants us to get out of her book.
That's
And
right.
that's it. That's not
I know.
asking a lot.
Ladder. No.
Yeah.
To say ladder.
Don't go there. I still love her,
Oh,
but I would really love for her to come on. That would be really
it
nice.
would be great. It would be it's like Richardson was supposed to come to work and
Oh,
then the pandemic hit. Like that was she was coming. It's you kind of sound like me when she was coming. Like she's
she's
it
actually
was
coming.
going to be my legacy of the district that Dan Richardson was coming to Warren Con and um yeah, and then she couldn't get on an airplane because people had COVID and like she was flying to Michigan in a day. Yeah, the most devastating moment of my career. The highlight and the
And
devastation of my
all in the
career
same
so
all in
far,
the
all
same
in the same day, all in the same day. I walked into a kindergarten room the other day and they had her, she does a video with Jack Hartman and the kids were singing. I'm like, oh, it's my
Oh,
best friend.
yeah.
You go, oh, it's my best friend Mel.
That's the way I used to feel about Tony Hall. Do you remember her?
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Oh my
yeah.
God, I loved her. I learned so much from her, and that's the way I always felt. I'm like, oh, please just come sit in my room. Just have your presence be in my room.
And sign my book.
Huh?
I had her sign my book,
Oh, did you?
and I will not part with that book. I still have it on my bookshelf.
You have a house fire, you're like, go get the book.
Yep. That's a whole other conversation. Best friends you have and they don't know
And
that
they have
you're
no idea. Yeah.
they have no
Best
idea.
friends, husbands, boyfriends, girlfriends, people that don't even know.
Don't even know.
They only knew what they're missing out on.
On that note, I have to ask you this question because
Yeah.
this part was so on page 165, I think it's chapter 12.
Yes.
She says, you were best friends during one stage of your life doesn't mean you'll be best friends during the next stage. But she says, as a matter of fact, I hate the term best
Best
friend.
friends.
How do you feel about the best friends label or term?
I think I think I have when I read that, I immediately had two responses, like one right after the other one. First one is, you know what? She's right. Like at this
Mhm.
age, like do I would I who would I consider my best friend? And then immediately right after that I felt, yeah, that's true.
Yeah, it's so much pressure.
Yeah, it's like I felt yes, no, and then the other one I'm like, that's sad. Sad that I don't have a
Right,
best friend. It's like I felt
right.
exactly two opposite reactions, one or after the other. Uh, So what about you?
I loved that she said that.
Yeah.
Too much pressure and it's too much expectation. It's just like your marriage. Your marriage is never going to be 50-50.
Hmm.
Somebody always has to step up, depending on what's going on.
Absolutely.
And yeah, I don't, and I guess it's kind of this, maybe the same for you, not having a best friend, but the thought of the negative side of it is, oh, I'm not your best friend. Wait, I'm not.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like, why do we even have to have that term, that label, whatever? So when she said that, I was like, yeah,
Yes.
this, you know,
Yes.
I, I loved it. And I just wonder how more people, I'm curious in the book club tomorrow, if anybody will
Yeah.
react to that. But the fact that it just puts too much pressure on expectations on a relationship that will always need room to grow and evolve. And people come in and out of your life, let them trust the timing. That was my favorite.
Yeah.
Like I told you, I've read this 1,000 times, I feel like
Yeah.
already. But I'm like, I want to know how more people feel about best friends. And that goes back to those little girls in third grade, the three little girls every day who, she's not my best friend today. She's so and so's best friend today. Why the pressure? Why
Right.
don't you just all be friends and don't worry? Nobody has to be the best.
Because your best friend, again, my experiences, your best friend can, after a decade, after almost 2 decades, can go up in flames, you
Sure.
know?
Yeah.
And so it's a lot. It's a lot of pressure to put on one person
Mm.
because really you're trusting them with your life. And if I've learned anything, it's that the only person that you can completely and fully trust is yourself.
Mhm.
Because you may have people who wouldn't do anything to hurt you intentionally, but that's not gonna stop them from saying something bad to you or about you,
Mhm.
or it's just I feel like it's got to be such a protected thing.
Yeah. Well, and it can't be an excuse for people to, oh, I just had the word in my head and I lost it. Darn it. Maybe it'll come back. Like you can't,
8 o'clock at night, it's
I
our
know
brain's leaving
it's
us.
the, yes, it is. But it can't be an excuse for somebody. And I don't want to say treat you poorly because that's not the right phrase. But maybe
Like take advantage of you?
use your
Yes.
vulnerability against you.
Agree.
And
Yes.
I think that sometimes if you've been in a really long friendship where they do know everything and you've been the most vulnerable with that person in their weakest moments, in their high anxiety moments, if they're using that vulnerability against you, the friendship is breaking down. The relationship is breaking down because um and I think sometimes people think because they have been connected to you for a longer period of time that somehow they have that right.
Right.
And so yeah, so that whole idea of best, like, I have a lot of really great best friends that come in and out of my life a lot. But yeah, I don't think people use it correctly,
And
if
it
that
sounds kind of
makes sense.
weird at our age to say, "This is my best friend."
Yeah. My best friend. Yeah.
I mean, I know people
Just
have
like a
a hard
boyfriend or
time. I
girlfriend
was
when
just
you
gonna
start
that's
dating.
exactly what I was gonna say, is someone says, "I don't really like saying my boyfriend." I'm like 50. I'm like, "What are you gonna say, your partner?" I mean, that just none of it sounds right.
I am seeing. I am seeing.
Yeah. By the way, I still have my socks in my hand that I'm just holding. I'm just holding them, holding on to dear life. I don't know why.
You don't know my whole, like, I don't like feet thing?
Well,
Like,
yeah, but you can't see
can you
my
keep
foot.
your sock? It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
keep your socks
my
to yourself.
my piggies are free as a bird, Stacy.
Oh, I went to my daughter's last night and I was sorting through her socks and I'm like, this is just, I don't do this. Can I have gloves? They're clean. I'm like, I don't
Gonna put
care.
her socks on your hands to deal with other socks.
Oh,
Oh, well, we should probably wrap this up. This darn book. I could talk about it forever.
I know. So good. So, so good.
Forever.
I'm
So,
excited to get to the kids part too.
yes, me too. Me too. Me too. I can't read too far in advance because then I'll have to reread it anyway to refresh my memory for book club. So, but thank you so much for talking to me about this. I do truly feel that this is such an important section in the book, and the book in general is wonderful. So, a little a little shout out for Mel Robbins, my best friend. The Let Them Theory. Go get it. Read it. Men, women, you will see yourself in this book a million times.
Hmm.
And yeah, maybe
Thank, thank you for bringing us all together with it because it's nice to hear other perspectives too because everybody's getting something different out of each chapter. And I think that's important too. Like we talked about friendship today, but there's been 3 chapters where I've honed in on work,
Mhm.
3 chapters where I've honed in on friendship, a chapter where I've honed in on my family. And so there is a let them for every situation in your life. And great.
Absolutely. I
Yep.
agree. I mean, it's not even, she may say a situation that you're like, oh, well, that's never happened to me. No, no, no.
Right.
Just think about it because there is a part of your life, may not be exact, that you can relate to. So
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
could not recommend it enough. And I
That's right.
thank you, my friend, for hashing it out with me. Thank you for joining me. As always, do better, expect better, and be better. And remember to laugh through it all. Don't forget to check out my Shopify page where you can pick up some do better, expect better, be better, and some laugh through it all merchandise. Link is in the description.